This is the mom-daughter murder trial. Robin Howington, the defendant accused of shooting her 5-year-old daughter, Destiny Oliver, back in September of 2019. Destiny was transported to a medical center where she later died. Howington facing charges now, including murder, tampering with evidence. The defendant changed her alibi many times. First, she said that a stranger entered the home, shot her daughter before leaving in a white Chrysler 300, very specific. Howington later said it was Destiny's father who shot the girl before getting away in a black Chrysler 300. So she later admitted, maybe she wiped down the gun and stashed the weapon in a nearby bush as a maternal instinct after claiming that her 2-year-old son, Gavin, shot her daughter. So she admitted to authorities that she attempted to destroy her cell phone as well to conceal any possible drug sales evidence. And after posting bond, Howington was eventually placed on house arrest. Why? Tested positive for marijuana. So now the jury is deliberating. And we've got, what's the clock there? 30 coming up on 40 minutes. But we're going to get you back into the courtroom now as we wait for them to complete their process. Just getting to it now. We have more of the closing arguments in the case. This is a little bit more from the defense. Here we go.
That's it. Destiny is gone. Gavin is the only one who's left. Gavin, as they are telling you here today, throughout this trial, shot his sister, mortally wounding her by accident. This is a woman who has her own mental health struggles because of trauma she has suffered. And she's thinking about that boy and what's going to happen to him. He's going to spend the rest of his life knowing that he's the one who killed his sister. She does not want that. So she tells them it was some unknown man. Now, did the police start a dragnet for some unknown man? No, they couldn't. She puts the gun outside, and she says for 2 reasons. One is because she wants it out of the house. It's just been fired in the house, and it's resulted in the death of her daughter. Her son is still in the house. She puts the gun outside. She put it outside because she's also worried the police are going to blame her for some kind of possessing the weapon. She doesn't have a felony, they told her. You don't have a felony, you possess a weapon. They say, we wouldn't have gone after Gavin. What do you think? We'd arrest a 2-year-old? Well, I'd say if you're in an interview room with a woman who tells you multiple times that she has PTSD as a result of rape, and her daughter has just been killed, and you jump up and down and yell and scream and pound the table and cuss her and tell her she ain't got a heart and a soul, I don't know exactly what's on your list of things you would do. It's pretty short, I'm assuming. And I am absolutely shocked. And I hope they don't get up here again, because I'm not going to get a chance to talk to you again. They can't figure out whether you remember best what you heard first or last. So they get both to the state. So they're going to be able to get back up after I sit down and talk and rebut what I told you. I don't get to do that again. I just ask you to think in the back of your mind what Mr. Lincoln said about that. Because it's very simple, I believe, ladies and gentlemen. This was not a planned act. It happened. You don't believe that Ms. Howington was traumatized by the fact that her 2.5-year-old son shot her 5-year-old daughter. I can't tell you. That within 2 hours of the shooting, she's sitting in a KBD interview. Part of the time she's at the house, part of the time she's being transported to the hospital, part of the time she's sitting there. If that's not the most traumatic event you can imagine, I can't get you anything else. But that's the person they were talking to. Did they treat her at all like a victim in any way? No. In fact, yesterday, they questioned whether or not she had been raped. Isn't it true, ma'am, that he was actually only charged with making false reports to the TBI? 2 female prosecutors.
Your Honor, can I take the approach, please?
Just finish up your argument. Talk about the parties to the lawsuit, not the lawyers, Mr. Waven.
Minimizing the violence perpetrated upon Miss Howington by the individual named by the sheriff of Sullivan County to oversee this program. And then to suggest that because someone else made a decision in Sullivan County, cut some kind of deal, that she must be lying to you about having been raped. Most rape victims don't want to talk about being raped. Certainly not in a room with 2 other police officers who are yelling and screaming at them. Or coming into a courtroom and having to say it, talk about it. Don't be mistaken. That's what started the PTSD. That's why she was being treated. That's why she had medications for PTSD. No matter what anyone else says. And if I'm not mistaken, what was said in closing argument a minute ago was after Mr. Wardlaw threw Mr. Oliver on the bus, she said, Mr. Montgomery said, all Ms. Howington had to do was say no. Short memory. PTSD will do that to you, too. I asked Mr. Wardlaw, remember what she said after you asked her, was it possible that Anton would kill her? Well, show it to me. Play the video. Let me see it. Here's the transcript. You said, is it possible Antoine would do it? What was her response? No. I promise you he didn't do it. It wasn't him. She said no. They wouldn't accept no. But once she got around to saying, okay, you're right. You're right, Ms. Wardlaw. I can't do this anymore. You're right. What happens then? She's now the queen of the ball. They're going to try to get her in a hotel, get Gavin there for protection. They're going to look out for her, make sure she's safe. That's what you do with investigative techniques. You're training people to give you the answers you want. They got the wrong answer. Now they want to blame it on her. She said, I can't take it. I can't do it anymore. You're right. And the abuse stops. There's a pretty good thing to look forward to. If I tell you what you want, what you say is true, you stop screaming at me. Triggering that PSTD, making me think I'm crazy. Because you're telling me everything I know isn't true. So she told him somebody else did it. She told him she said that to protect him. And the other steps that she took after that, telling them, agreeing with them, oh, it was Mr. Yeah, you're right, Mr. Oliver did it. And gets it off Gavin. You're being told, oh, she's trying to self-preservation. She's not charged with having shot the child. Gavin is the one who shot the child. Does it not make sense that she would try to protect Gavin? The only child, despite Mr. Little's math, she has left. That she doesn't want to have to suffer mental illness for the rest of his life because he shot his sister. Is that not a reasonable goal for Mama Bear to take? Everything after that just builds on that. How do you other than that is to say, Gavin did it. And they start saying, that's not true, this is not true. And finally she gets to it and says, Gavin did it. And when you look, well, we don't have the mannequin anymore. Lay that mannequin on its side. That's when you shot just off the top of that couch. Off the cushions of the couch, the seating of the couch. About a 2-foot height from the floor. Not where Gavin would be if he was pointing a gun. They kept telling her, that's not true. He would have had to be on top of her, shooting like this. Down into her. That things are going through the couch and into the floor. was in a couch cushion right behind her when she was lying on her side. They had all the evidence they needed to know that this was an accident and that she was not responsible for it. But because they couldn't give her what they would give each other, which is 48 to 72 hours to figure out what's going on, and we hope they are not suffering from PTSD and medicated, like she was. They had given her that 48 to 72 hours, they would have had time to know what happened. They would have had time to collected all that evidence at the scene and found the bullet in the cushion and stopped telling her lies about where it should be and why it isn't there, and that must mean you did it. Because it's not adding up. It's not adding up because you don't know what the numbers are. You haven't done the investigation. You just drugged this woman into a room and screamed at her for 4 hours and tell her all the things that you want it to be. It's clearly domestic. We do that all along. We do that. Thank you for telling us that's what we needed you to do. Now we're going to help you. She didn't change her story. They changed her. She testified yesterday, and she told you, and she told Wardlaw. They kept telling me he couldn't have got on the steps. He couldn't have got on the stool. He couldn't have got on top of that closet. It couldn't happen. It's not physically possible. You're lying. What did she answer to Wardlaw? He either climbed up on the stool, or the gun wasn't where I put it. He either climbed up there or the gun. I suggest to you, what the state has proven to you, 4 days of testimony, is that this was a horrible family tragedy. And that's where it should have stayed. They're not claiming that she killed this child, but they charged her with murder. Because maybe Gavin got his hand on the gun because it was placed in the wrong place by somebody else. Elevates this to a felony murder. Only the state could try to find a way to make a family tragedy worse. Don't join them. They have failed to prove that this is anything other than that. 4 days of testimony, all the evidence, and all the questions about whether or not truthful statements were made doesn't change what happened. 10 minutes to 9 on September 14th, 2019. It doesn't change what happened at that moment. It's just a justification to make it more than what it seems. To hammer it. Deny the possibility of an accident. Even though now they're telling you that nobody's telling you Gavin intended to shoot Destiny either. It was just a horrible accident. Let it stay there.
All right, is it working? Is it working on you? Are you feeling sorry for the defendant? I mean, she's been through a lot already, Mr. and Ms. Jury member. Do you want to now convict her and throw her in prison now away from the 2-year-old that she's just trying to protect? I don't know. Catherine Lizardo is still here. She is a trial attorney in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And look who's joined me on the set. It's Brian Buckmeyer, law and crime legal analyst, defense attorney in his own right. And I'm going to start with you, Brian. Because you're bigger than me. So in this case, you know, we see the defense trying to at least drag some sympathy out of this jury for this woman who, if you believe the prosecution, is a horrible person, killed her own son, a daughter, and then laid it at the feet of her son. Is it working? Does it work?
So it does work. The concept of humanizing your client is always something at the forefront for defense attorneys. The idea of creating this sense of, it's not that my client, the defendant, is an other, but they're one of us. This is a parent who did exactly like the mama bear. Every mother wants to perceive themselves as the mama bear, or a father as a papa bear protecting their child. And if you can create a sense of this defendant is doing what you would have done in this situation, let's not punish her, it does make it a lot easier for the jury, but you've still got to ground that argument in fact and ground it in law. I think it's just one step in many, but I don't think it's the step to get us all the way to not guilty.
And so, Catherine, as we know, when we see a case that has multiple counts, there are lessers that would be, I think, maybe a win. So if you're the defense attorney, what are you kind of hoping would be a good outcome in this case if you can beat the top charge?
During the closing argument of the defense, they alluded to that, which is almost that him saying, why don't you just, convict her with the aggravated child neglect? The problem with that is that the felony murder charge against her is actually related to the aggravated child neglect. And I found that the prosecution's closing argument, where she put up on a PowerPoint presentation the elements of that felony murder that they want to stick against her, is that the felony murder, you can convict her on that. And I'm going to read those words, is that the killing of Destiny was closely connected to the aggravated child neglect and was not a separate and distinct event. So if they believe that she committed aggravated child neglect, it becomes so much more closer to convicting her to felony murder.
Yeah, they're very important and well done, Professor. Yes, I think that's a good idea that people understand the predicate felony basis for the felony murder rule. Death penalty exists in Tennessee, not an issue in this case. Okay, so see, does Brian look scared? Does Brian look scared? He doesn't look scared. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to pivot and talk about, Brian and I, we're going to have a little discussion about the latest Crumley case underway in Michigan. James Crumley is now on trial for what he did or didn't do that may or may not have led to his son shooting those 4 students and killing them. We're taking a break and come back. We'll do that right after this.